over to me to bring the interview forward. And we're in the summer break, and that was punctuated right at the beginning by Fernando Alonso's decision to leave Alpine after 1.5 seasons, and move and move straight before it even got cold at Aston Martin that Vettel had retired from. Then everybody assumed, including the Alpine team, that Oscar Piastri would naturally then go from reserve driver to number 2 driver, co-number 1.5 driver. But surprise, the day of or the day after Alpine's announcement, Oscar Piastri put down the Pina Colada, picked up his phone and tweeted, "No way! You've put this out. I'm going to another team." So my question to you, Deni, is we focused on this from the Zak Brown perspective, the McLaren perspective, the Alpine perspective, but from Oscar Piastri's perspective, is him turning down Alpine and presumably going to McLaren a good move for him? What do you think about all that's happened in the last few weeks?
Well, I think there's 2 layers to it. One is the legal perspective of it, which is, what did Oscar actually do? Was he going against? Is he in breach of a contract that was set in place for him because he was their reserve driver? Or is he actually on the right when he says, they don't speak to me, I don't have any agreements, they can't just put out statements? I think that is one layer that people need to sit down and think about, which is what they're probably going to do in the High Court if Alpine takes it there. But then there's also the driving side of things, which is McLaren, is it worth declining a McLaren deal if you have one on the table to go to Alpine? And then you look at things like, where is McLaren going to be at the end of the season in terms of points and standings, and where is Alpine going to be, and who are the drivers that you're going to be driving against? For instance, like Lando Norris, Oscar probably has, and I don't want people to come for me, but the chances of Oscar becoming a number 1 driver at McLaren are probably quite high, because if he gets to beat Lando, who is the leader of that team, then what's to say Zach isn't going to say, okay, let's shape the whole car of 2023 and on forwards to Oscar? And seeing that McLaren probably has more resources than Alpine, and seeing yourself as a rookie in your first year, you probably want to go to the team that is going to give you the more opportunity, the higher chances to be at the forefront. So I think those 2 layers can be sat down and discussed. I don't think Oscar's doing anything wrong. If he's not in breach of an agreement, let's let that clear. If he's not in breach of an agreement and if he has his own choices, I think he's not doing anything wrong. I think McLaren would be the team every rookie driver would want to go to as it stands right now. And if they had the option, if not, then obviously Alpine isn't. It's not a bad team, but is it worth accepting Alpine over McLaren? Probably not.
To lose 2 drivers, one back-to-back Formula 3, Formula 2 champion in the matter of a week or 4 days, I think it was. Like, either that's incredibly bad management, or they've looked at, I'm going to annoy my guy Roy Boy here. They've looked at the blueprints and they don't think that Alpine are doing the right thing for 2023 or for the rest of this kind of era. So there's something there. Maybe it does feel like Alpine isn't going to provide the platform for a talented driver. Your points about quite funny. I feel like we're taking a bit of a carousel, a bit of a tour around the grid and trying to alienate as many fan bases as possible. Like a quick challenge back on that. Like, so do you think it will be easier for Piastri to sort of outdo Lando in a McLaren than it will be for him to would have been for him to outdo?
You put me on the spot there.
Yeah,
it's a tough one, especially because I absolutely love Ocon, and I don't think there's any driver that beats him besides Lewis.
Bias.
Yeah, no. I think Oscar is in a very good position regardless of where he goes in terms of drivers. I don't think that they are exempt from being beaten by Oscar. Obviously, I don't know much about Oscar as a driver myself because I only watch Formula One. I don't watch the other formulas or other any other sport besides in the motorsports categories. So I only watch Formula One. So I don't know how his driving style is, how much he adapts. I don't know how much influence he has in the cars. And obviously, their spec series, the other ones, right? So the cars are all very similar. But I don't know how much of a good rookie he can be. But when I say he can beat Lando, I don't mean like, oh, Lando is talentless and Ocon's much better. I think Ocon's better than Lando myself. But what I'm trying to say is, in a team like McLaren, where development is key, especially in an era where Zach Brown wants to be at the top and he wants to constantly be best of the rest, the chances of having Zach follow through with seeing a rookie perform well and saying, okay, we're going to put our coins, all our eggs in Oscar's basket in comparison to someone at Alpine where people don't have as much resources and they have to make sure that everything is balanced. So they won't be able to just say, right, we're going to forget about this other driver and just focus completely on Oscar. It's just looking at chances and looking at how much can be given to one driver. McLaren is financially stable to do that specifically. We've seen them do that with Lando this past few seasons. We've seen how Dani Ric fans are outraged at how they treat them and treat Daniel and how they make him literally like ruin his races to allow Lando to have a better performance or something like that. So they are not they are able to shoot themselves in the foot, like shoot one driver in the foot to have the other one be up there in the steps. And I don't think Alpine kind of do that. I've never seen them do that. They kind of like let them race and let them do whatever they have to do. I mean, Ocon one day just went into a race and said no to team orders because he also had his own race to focus on. And that's the type of dynamic they have. And so it's not in terms of beating a driver, if I can put it that way, because I have never seen Oscar actually get in the car and do that because I don't watch the other supporting series. I only watch Formula One. But in terms of can the team back you as a driver and a rookie coming in, McLaren probably would back Oscar more than Alpine could. That's my opinion.
Yeah, maybe they know something about Renault and their commitment to the sport, but who knows? So here's a question relating to that. So if and I don't team will take it to the High Court. I think it was a negotiating tactic to try and get as much money as they can, or to, put pressure on Piastri. Saying you're going to 90% certain to do. Again, like you're trying to give somebody else a chance to tell you, oh no, please don't. But here we go. So let's say Piastri isn't going to be in the Alpine next season. So it's Ocon and who else? Who do you think is going to be in that second Alpine come Bahrain, presumably as the opening Grand Prix next year? Who's going to be in the car?
In the second Alpine?
In the second Alpine, yeah.
Oof, interesting. I don't know. I had Daniel. I hope Daniel is the one that goes there. I don't see him getting out of F1 anytime soon. I wouldn't want to see him out of F1 anytime soon. I feel like McLaren was supposed to be his redemption year, and he's come off Red Bull, and he doesn't want to be that second driver to Max. And we didn't get that of him. Alpine obviously is not top team, but we've seen Fernando perform, we've seen Ocon perform, and maybe he can get his chance when he's back there. So I hope Daniel's the one fitting that seat. But there's probably a lot of potential. I saw there's something like reports of who said it? Was it Otmar that said they have 14 drivers on their list that want to be in that seat? So maybe there's a talent out there that I don't know about because I don't watch the other series. That is waiting to fill in that seat. And if it's not Daniel, that would be a shame. But I personally hope it's him.
Let me come to Dens on this. Do you have anything else you want to add on this whole Piastri, Big Daddy, Zach Brown fiasco? Whether there's a kind of a driver you see likely to be in the Alpine next year?
Yeah, well, Black, thanks for tuning me in on this one, man. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with what Deni said. On the basis of there not being any kind of like contractual agreement between Piastri and Alpine, I don't think that he's obliged to have to take them up on their offer now, because I feel for Piastri, he just felt that he was third wheeling the entire situation. Obviously, man, bear in mind, man, one F3, one F2, like in his first year of each series, he should have got an opportunity to, get into Formula One. And you don't want him to end up like somebody like Nick de Vries, for example, where you're 28 years old, you still got it, but then people overlook you just because of your age. So for him, I think that, he looked at Alpine's knee-jerk reaction to Alonso leaving as a, oh, okay, well, Alonso's gone, you'll do. And I don't think that's fair to him. I think that he deserves better. And actually, had it not been for Alonso moving to Alpine, then what would they have done for him? So that's kind of where I stand on that one. Then if you're talking about who will potentially get that Alpine seat for next season, man, there's a lot of contenders, as you guys have both kind of mentioned too. I've even heard, and Deni will laugh at this because we cooked our boy Mick as well earlier on in the year.
Last time,
But,
yeah.
Exactly, but you see, Deni, you see the power of like what we say, how it just materializes. Like we absolutely stuck it onto Mick, and you see how now my guys are coming.
Yeah, he heard us. He heard the podcast. He was like, "Oh no, can't let them shame me like this. Let's go."
Exactly, you couldn't stand at the.
How many points?
Exactly that. And on some weekends, he's genuinely looked like a match for K-Mag. So yeah, I mean, I think that Austria Grand Prix, for example, I think was a good example of that, because even in the sprint race, I think he almost had Kevin, but then obviously when you've got the asterisk 8-time world champion behind you, it's a bit distracting. So and that's 100%. Where I kind of coined the term bad boy Mick, because he was a bit kind of angry, and that's again like Deni.
That was the turning point for him.
Exactly. Like, did you see his face, Deni? He genuinely looked like his dad, Michael, for a second.
That was the turning point for him. I think he's a good driver. I just feel like we need to understand the weight that they carry when you put a name like Schumacher behind you. Do you know what I mean? And he needed to prove himself in that car, because everyone's just been waiting for him to shine, just been waiting for him to do that, what he's capable of doing, because obviously he's won formulas before, right? I think he was champion of like the lower series. So I'm glad he's up there. I'm glad he's doing something for the team. Maybe he just keeps going in the streak.
Exactly, and then we talk about the whole kind of mentorship thing that he's had with him and Seb as well, and now Seb leaving. It's nice to see that probably some of the stuff and advice Seb's given him is actually starting to kind of work as well, and he's starting to become his own man, his own driver, and kind of commanding his own like performances too. So I mean, the situation for Mick's interesting, because I think they were talking about renegotiating his contract at Haas, and then that basically got stunted because of this Alpine situation. That might potentially be a move, although I don't think it'd be a wise one for him, because if he leaves to go to Alpine, then I think he will sever his ties with the Ferrari Academy. And of course, like, if there's any chance Ferrari could ever get to put Mick inside a Ferrari, to emulate his dad, they will 100% take it. So you've got that. And then also in the world of F2 as well, it's been very hotly contested. You've got the likes of Theo Porcher, French driver, that's with the Sauber program. But again, Sauber / Alfa Romeo look like they're quite happy with Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas. So maybe there's a seat for him at Alpine. On top of that as well, you got Felipe Drogovic. And I've always said that, in Formula One motor racing, it's always nice when there's a Brazilian on the grid. We've obviously had Senna. We also had Felipe Massa too. So to have another Brazilian on the grid, I think would be nice. And then also you've got to kind of like look in the current talent pool as well. You got Nico Oldenburg, that just keeps just making reappearances. Like, and I'm just like, dude, when will you ever leave? Like, so he's obviously a kind of standby option for Alpine. You rightfully mentioned as well, Deni. You've got like Dani Ric as well, which, again, if he wants to salvage his career in Formula One, I think Alpine might be the place for him to do it, because just kind of the banter. I know that Cyril's not there anymore, but that kind of relationship he had with Cyril Abitbol and that kind of 2020 and 2019 era, I think was quite funny to watch. And it seemed like he was loved at Alpine / Renault at the time, so maybe that might be a home for him. We don't even talk about it enough on this channel as well, Deni. But there's drivers from other series too. Like there's a lot of IndyCar drivers which are getting into a bit of fisticuffs with Zach Brown as well, Big Daddy Brown as we like to call him, Shug Brown, because he's always at the center of any contract controversy. But yeah, you got like Pato Award, you've got Alex Palou. There's a couple of drivers in the
There
States
is a lot of
trying.
people. There's a lot
Exactly.
of people. I wouldn't be able to
Exactly.
focus on all of these people. That is
This is
bare
it.
driver.
Exactly. It's a cesspool. It's a cesspool, Deni. And that's why when Otmar Savnar was like, there's 14 drivers that contacted us for the seat. For once, I actually
Yeah.
believe, man. Because I was like, yo, like, this is like,
It's a lot of people.
all right, look past the fact it's Alpine. Like, this is an opportunity for somebody to get into F1
Yeah,
when
exactly.
and in a time where like it's been hard for new teams to get an entry into Formula One. They've only just today come out and talked about the new kind of 2026 regulations and the MGUK being removed as well. So a lot of engine suppliers might join as well. But up until then, getting into Formula One has been one of the most difficult things. So irregardless of whether it's Alpine, Haas, or any of the teams kind of in the mid to lower midfield, I think any driver would take it.
Yeah, and also the thing about F1 is finding that balance between you want younger blood to come in, fresh people to come in, but also you want experience to be there. And so I think teams kind of sit down of, okay, we kind of have Daniel Ricciardo on the table here. He's on the phone. He's talking to us. He's trying to get a deal. He has 8 wins. He hasn't won much out, which is understandable. Not everyone wins every season, but he has the experience. He can help us develop. But then again, you look at people with history of winning Formula 2 and Formula 3 and this, and do you want to risk going for someone that might not bring as many wins but has experience? Or do you want fresh blood coming in? He's hungry, he's willing to learn, he's fast adapting, And so I think that ping pong game and just going back and forth with it and sitting down and analyzing these things is so fun to sit down and just think, what are they going to do? Why are they going to do that? And then also one thing you guys have failed to mention is that Williams seat, that second Williams seat might not be as secure as we think it is, right? Because CP has been playing a few games here and there. So hopefully, maybe I think everyone wants to see someone new coming in there. And I have a feeling he might be gone next year.
Well, Deni, I hope so, because my prayers would be answered and it would be sweet karma for how he also played a role in my boy Lewis, like, basically getting snuffed out of that A4 championship. I got money on Latifi's head, but yeah, this is one of those ones as well. It's interesting you mentioned that, Deni, because you're right. Like the Latifi situation's a bit up and down as well. We know obviously that his dad obviously generates and brings Williams a lot of money, but then Williams, which are now owned by a finance company, Dalton Capital, have expressed on numerous occasions that they don't need the money anymore, and actually, what they would want is like a kind of higher performing driver, a la George Russell, which they had to let go of, to kind of fulfill that seat, because we've seen that, having the money to develop the car is one thing, but sometimes even if you don't have a great car, if you still have an amazing driver, they can bring the car up a level or two and sometimes get you in the points when you don't expect to. And, even with Albon and his ties to Red Bull, we've seen even him just come out from a year of like being out of the sport, coming straight back into it and, managing to nick a point here, a point there on occasions too. So, if Williams are as ambitious as they say they are, and if they want to try and uplift the name of the legendary Sir Frank Williams, I think that maybe they do need to be a bit more ambitious and maybe, let go of obviously, I'm not even going to call him Goat Tiffy, man. If Latifi was a goat, he'd be Curry Goat. He'd literally be Curry Goat. That guy ain't no goat. But anyway, like, yeah, it would be, I think, refreshing, like you mentioned too, for somebody else to get an opportunity as well. And like, Blag, like, what's your thought on that too?
On the Williams seat, I mean, I was just looking at the championship standing because we were wondering how many points Mick has scored. Still all in a minute, but on Williams, they're basically 20th and 19th in the driver's standing, and we think, oh, Albon's absolutely destroyed Latifi. It's like, no, Albon got 3 points and Latifi's got 0. So as a car, as a team, they've taken a step back this season, or perhaps it was Russell was just absolutely on fire. We won't know, but that's probably break a career. So, if I was Nick de Vries or if I was Stoffel van Dorn, someone like that, as much as I'd want to be in F1, maybe I wouldn't want to be in that Williams, but who knows? Red Bull, Jos Capito Racing, as they appear to behave. And to kind of to give a bit of a spoiler alert or give the answer on Mick. So we were talking about him having a bit of resurgence after you guys roasted him at the end of May. So he's had 2 point scoring finishes. Admittedly, one was 6th in Austria, which looks great. But that's it. So he's on 12 points, which looks pretty good. But that means he's only 15th in the grid. And he's a long way back. I'll say a long way back. He's 10 points behind his teammates. So his teammates got basically double. So we'll see. Do we think, I'm not sure that Mick is 100% concrete going to be in F1 next year. I don't know why I have that hunch. And if we look at Alpine, for some reason, I don't know if Ricciardo is still going to be in F1 next year as well. Those are my bold predictions. I think if I was IndyCar, if I was Roger Penske, I'd be looking for any amount of money to bring. I think that's ratings. I think the number of viewers, fresh eyes from either Europe or indeed Australia that would tune in to watch IndyCar if Dani Ric was on the grid would be incredible. So that's a bold prediction, but that's where I am. Let's ask one of our sort of short, funny questions. This is I'm going to rejig the order, and we'll let Dens ask the better question later. But Deni, here's a question for you, and you can pick one artist and one Formula One driver. Can you pick a singer to perform the national anthem of your choice? So we're setting up a new race. You can decide which country it's in. So tell us about which country it's in, what anthem, and then pick the singer. And you can have any. Also, I want to hear a name of a driver that's going to sing.
And you can't pick the drivers that you've already picked before.
No,
as
you're
well.
not allowed.
Wait. So it's a singer and a driver to do what?
To sing a national anthem. So I'm going to give you that extra creativity. You can.
The singer and the driver to be singing.
Yeah, you can pick. So we're going to imagine a perfect world where you can have any singer you want, and then imagine an awful world where you have to pick one of the remaining 16 drivers to sing. So there you go. Those are your options. Which anthem and which singers?
Any country, or does it have to be one where we have a race?
You can pick any country. If you love the national anthem, if you're an expert in national anthems, you can expand our knowledge.
I am not actually, but I would love to hear, just because the closest thing to what I speak, which is Portuguese, I'm not going to go Portugal because they colonized my country, but Brazil, I'd have obviously the icon Anita sing it, the national anthem at Interlagos, and if I had to pick a driver, I feel like national anthems are things we need to respect. So I'd have to pick someone that would have to do it with respect if asked. And so, but there's no one that speaks Portuguese in there. Probably Seb. I think Seb would take his time to learn it and actually try and pronounce the words right. So I think Sebastian Vettel would be my go-to.
Yeah, for some reason I had that. What's that phrase you used to say? Grazie, ragazzi.
Grazie, ragazzi.
Yeah, thank you, boys. Which was massively less annoying than his crazy frog that he kept doing at Red Bull. Okay, that's a sensible thing. And for those that for some reason don't know the Brazilian singer, songwriter, actress, dancer, and businesswoman Anita, it's with 2 T's. Oof. Look it up. I'm definitely not on Wikipedia. Same question to you. Which national anthem, which singer, also which member of the grid is going to sing this song as well?
Ooh, you got me in my feels, Black. You know what? When they went to Azerbaijan, that melody was nice, you know. I could hear that one twice. So nice I had to name it twice. So I'm gonna go with Azerbaijan. And I hear Deni's point about if you're gonna get somebody to sing the national anthem, it is preferable that you get somebody that's gonna take it seriously. Yeah. But I don't know, you know. I think Pierre Gasly's a singer, you know. I think that guy's a real bad boy vocalist. I think just sweet, I'm matching Monsieur Gasly, just spelling out those lyrics. So I don't know. Pierre Gasly singing the Baku or the Azerbaijan, should I say, Azerbaijani national anthem. I think could be a combination. But what about you, Black?
Like I've got sort of three anthems in the world that I love, not because of any political allegiance, but I love the Italian national anthem. But given I went with Monza, I won't do that. I love the Brazilian national anthem, but again, I'm not going to copy Deni, so I'll leave you to it. So the third one I like, partly because of how like overly R&B it usually gets sung, is the American national anthem. So I'm going to say we're at Kota. And then I'm trying to think, who should I have to sing that? Well, in terms of if I can go back in time, I'd probably have someone like Whitney Houston singing that. That would be like hair on the back of the neck.
That's a good one.
You know, you'd sign up for the passport immediately if they let you in. But yeah, which driver would have to sing it? We've got no Americans on the grid, and you won't let me have young Rossi de Bossi to come over.
Nah. You're not doing the IndyCar thing, boss.
No,
you're not doing the IndyCar thing, boss. Nah.
Well, then I'm going to subject, just to annoy them, I'm going to make Canadian Lance Stroll sing the US national anthem because it will have a greater impact on him. There you go. That's
Canadian singing the American national anthem.
That's Black. Right. That's the one.
You don't want peace. You want problems.
He doesn't want
peace. It's like a French singing the British anthem.
I could have gone for Sergio. I could have gone for Checo. Oh, you know.
Black, yo, wicked man, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen. I think we've answered that one conclusively. So back to you, Dens, for a much more sensible question to ask our esteemed guest.
Of course. I do try, man. I do try. Well, Deni, you know, another thing that I think we need to speak about as well this year is the good old FIA, you know. Fix it again, shall we? Fix it again. FIA, fix it again. Because they're always trying to fix things which either aren't broken or are completely broken. And I think, you know, amongst a lot of hot topics we've seen this year, piercings and pants, you know, like a couple of stewards going into FIA witness protection, Michael Massey, you know, and just generally this whole thing about like forcing a driver off the track limits. What's your honest assessment been, Deni, of this, like, them generally and just whether they've made a step forward, backwards, or just more or less the same where we were last year?
I haven't seen any progress myself, honestly, and I feel like the only reason why it's not as heightened for us, Team LA, just say, and for people that follow Lewis closely, is because Lewis is not at the front. We have seen time and time again so much that Alonso stepped up into the driver meetings and was like, what is going on, guys? Why aren't rules being enforced? We are seeing the same things over and over, and I think the reshaping of the FIA, the restructure, and having new race directors coming in and trying to get stewards to do race directors to play like, oh, one comes to one race, the other one like substitute, and all of that was because of the backlash that AD had, and not so much, not only the backlash, but also this rumor that goes around that Mercedes, it was not a rumor, I think it was confirmed even in one of their letters, that Mercedes got this deal and agreement with the FIA that if they didn't go taking matters into the hands of the courts, try and make the sport a better place and follow with rules and enforce things, yada yada yada. And so I just feel like that was a bit of a pat on the back, like, yeah, we're gonna do that, don't worry about it, Mercedes, we are so sorry for cheating on you, let's see next year how it goes. And then to just go back to the basic and standard stewarding, because I haven't seen anything differently, anything major. We've seen Paris cross track limits, we've seen Max push Mick out of the track. We've seen so many outrageous things where we can sit down and be like, hey guys, so where are the rules meant to be enforced and when do you start doing that? It's just that it's not as heightened for us specifically because Lewis is not at the front. He's not fighting Max. He's not fighting the Red Bulls directly. And when he does fight at the front, it's usually with the Ferraris because it's usually a Red Bull like DNF or something. And so I don't see anything different. I wouldn't, if you had asked me and said, oh, what changed, without me being involved in the sport, I wouldn't tell you. Like, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair assessment as well, Denny, and one that we all kind of share here as well. Because, like you said, I think there's lots of empty promises that they've made, and actually all they've done is gone digging in places they didn't need to. So it just makes it seem like they're doing something when really they're not. And then, as you mentioned as well, I think the state of the sports is still in a very shambolic state when you look at things like track limits too. And I think a crazy statistic came out. I'm not going to quote it directly because I can't remember where it's from or what the figures were, but it was like of X kind of infringements of track limit breaches in Austria, probably only like 1/8 of them actually got kind of flagged and the rest of them went missing. So it's just kind of annoying because, you know, at the moment, this championship, it seems like it's in Red Bull's laps. And regardless of whether the FIA make the right or wrong decisions, I just think based on the performance Red Bull have had, they'll walk away with the championship. But I think the point that you're going to make as well there, Deni, is, you know, when Lewis does come forward, when Mercedes do give him a car that could challenge, how confident can we be that we're not going to see a repeat of the same mistakes made in the past?
Yeah.
This is the thing, you know, and Black, I'll bring you on this one as well, man. Like, you know, we're halfway into the season now. We've got the remainder of the other half of the season to come up. You know, they have tried to do certain things like get on top of the porpoising, even though I think that kind of revealed that they didn't know something about the rules, which Red Bull and Ferrari seemed to exploit, which then kind of put them in a bad light anyway. But is there any redeemable factors for the FIA? Is there anything you kind of reckon we can kind of say, okay, that's a step in the right direction?
Why do you get? That's such a hard question. How can I be positive about the FIA? I was getting ready to fire. You know, let's think.
I'll let you do both, man.
No, I know. I will. I was going to go back around there. No, what have they done well? I mean, at least they admitted that they made an error in Abu Dhabi. Not that they've done anything about it, and they completely hid it with weasel words. But that might be the peak of the season for the FIA. Honestly, like, this might sound hyperbolic, but if you forget, like, it's hard to forget, right? But let's forget about Jeddah and let's forget about Abu Dhabi from last season. I would argue that this season, in terms of consistency, has been worse, which is mad, right? To think about how bad it was last year. Yeah. So, like, a couple of things I was thinking about, right? They changed the overtaking rule. So basically, technically, the car on the inside trying to overtake can just basically get away with anything. They can just run the other guy off track. But then, if you're in Austria, where, you know, I would argue Russell was tight into the apex at turn 4, I think it was turn 4, on lap 1. And Perez obviously didn't give him any more room on the exit and spun off. And they just suddenly jumped and gave a Georgia penalty. Like, I feel like either they've over-regulated it or they just aren't capable of enforcing the rules correctly. So, yeah, I think it's worse. And you mentioned sort of track limits. When I was listening to your episode before, which was recapping the Monaco Grand Prix, Perez and Verstappen crossing the pit exit line? Oh, but they were only on the line and some of their tyre was still on it, so it's okay. It's like, that was never the rule. It's absolute madness. Oh, well, the race director's event notes were wrong. It wasn't that the rule is wrong. It's that the race director's event. It's like, So for me, it's gotten worse. And I'd be super intrigued because remember they said one of the big things they were going to do to solve it was have people in, I don't know if it was in Paris or something, in a room with lots of screens trying to help the race director. Like, I've seen no evidence of the stewarding being better.
You know, I think they call that thing VAR, but it must be Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles behind the screens, man, because them guys don't see nothing, bro.
It's worse.
I'm telling you.
It's worse. Yeah, it's absolutely worse. And then, the point, the kind of cherry on top, which you stated, and, you know, maybe I'm a deluded Lewis Hamilton fan here. I genuinely believe that if they had brought in the floor rules when they stated, I genuinely believe that if they enforced the rules they had from race 1, then Lewis Hamilton could be world champion this year, right? I still believe that if they had brought the floor rules in France, then Lewis could have won that race. And who knows what would have happened, you know, in Hungary and thereafter. But because they're delaying, and now they said, we'll enforce it at Spa. Like, if rumors are true, and maybe they're not, Perez is a long way off of Verstappen. So if that's the new pace of the Red Bull, basically they've cemented Max Verstappen's championship by just not enforcing their rules. So sorry, you gave me that hard question of like, what's the positive? The positive was that they used the word error in the press statement on the 18th of March. Beyond that, it's been downhill. Sorry. Back to you in the happy world. You've wound me up here.
Black, honestly, man, we're an honest podcast, so I'm glad that you I wanted to kind of push you just to see if there was anything, because I couldn't think of anything, and I'm gonna keep my reputation of being Mr. Happy. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to get into that one as well. But it's facts, it's absolute facts. But to kind of bring it on a more positive note, back to the interactive questions. Deni, we always have a segment on our podcast as well when we're trying to get to know more about the guest who could guess the word. So I'm gonna give you like a hint or kind of like a phrase, and you have to work out who the person is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The person is a driver.
Not necessarily. No, well, not in this one. I'll kind of give you the first clue anyway.
Okay.
He is the best dog in the world.
You're right. Roscoe Hamilton.
Absolutely. And on the topic of this as well, like, Deni, did you see that kind of funny thing Mercedes released the other day with like, it was like a graphic of, it was like, yeah, Strat 7.
With the overtake thing, yeah, no, that was so cute. I absolutely love that.
Honestly.
I love when they bring Roscoe into their post and their planning. That was really cool.
Honestly, I just love it too, and I just love the fact as well that Lewis runs like a separate page for like Roscoe too. It's just like
absolutely amazing.
Exactly, it's just like I'm with my dad, woof woof woof, and I think we're gonna win the race, woof 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 woof. So totally what Roscoe's thinking.
He speaks like that as well. He doesn't just type that way. He also speaks, so you can hear in the videos like "Good boys, Roscoe's," like our dads. It is so amazing. Like thanks, dads. I love the cakes. He's so cute.
Honestly, like I think, sorry, Georgiano. I mean, Dukey is up there too. Like Georgina's dog as well. Duke's definitely up there too. But Roscoe, just Roscoe hits me differently, man. He's too funny. All right, the second one. This is an easy one for you. Then you'll definitely get this. Get in there, Lewis.
Peter Bonington.
Of course, the man, the myth, the legend.
I love Bono. I absolutely love him.
Same here, you know, and like another thing we've been doing throughout the summer series as well, Deni, is like interviewing a few drivers on stateside. And one thing that they all kind of mentioned is having that connection, that symmetry with their race engineer, or even in the case of rallycross, there's like a spotter that sits on top of a roof and then basically feeds back to the driver if like their left like blind spot or right blind spot's kind of clear, so they can go for a move or defend or whatever the case is. But on the topic of that as well, before we do the final guess the word, like what is it about like Bono and Lewis's kind of like, you know, professional relationship that works out so well and is like basically cemented so much success for them?
Well, if you asked me what it is, I wouldn't know personally, because I don't think there's anything anyone can pinpoint if not themselves, if that makes sense. So they know what they established, they know how long they've been working and how many hiccups they've had, because we only hear what they speak on the radio, right? And those of us who have the onboards have the privilege of saying like, oh yeah, we hear the whole race, but we don't hear what they're like when they're completely upset and they have to sit down and go through data, and the cars look like, we don't know what the conversations were after Baku, for instance, right? After setting up the car, what does Lewis transmit to Bono? What does Bono was? So we don't know how well they've solidified their working relationship. We don't know what their friendships are like. So I don't think there's anything us mere mortals from the outside can say, okay, that is exactly what they do. But one thing everyone can see, everyone can absolutely ascertain and say it actually is there and it's visible for everyone, is the relationship they have and how well they work together. I remember, and this is something that I can't even bear to forget, is at the Austrian Grand Prix, Lewis had, because Bono got COVID, unfortunately, and so he had Marcus on the radio, and those practice sessions were so painful to hear because Marcus would say something and Lewis was clearly, obviously I wouldn't say annoyed, but you could hear in his voice he'd say something like, bro, I can't hear you, I don't understand what you're saying. He would forget to give Lewis like Delta times, for instance, so you have to be asked for updates like, mate, can you update me and let me know what's going on. The race was the same thing, and I think that chemistry is what you need, right? Trust in the engineer, because you don't have the data, you don't see, you're just driving, and Lewis is essentially just in the car behind the wheel, just doing the driving and looking at the corners. But sometimes not even Lewis himself can correct his own corners, and this is something that I tweet a lot, tweet often and quite a lot, is sometimes Bono is the one who tells Lewis how to perfect his laps. Sometimes Bono is the one who tells Lewis how to overtake and when to overtake and where overtake is available. And he is doing a multi-million-dollar job because he's looking at other drivers just as much as he's looking at Lewis. And for you to trust someone to say, okay, you will deploy power here and you will overtake in this corner, you need to trust that person. Do you know what I mean? And the trust that Lewis and Bono have together, and the amount of effort that Bono puts, because obviously I don't know how other engineers are, but for Helmut Marko to come out and say, I am so upset that Peter Bonington is on the radio telling Lewis what to do, when to do it. I have a feeling that this is something very unique that Bono puts effort into doing, and maybe not every engineer is capable of doing it, because it's not just wanting to do it. You have to be able to read the data so fast that on the next lap you're already telling him, look, you can overtake into turn 3. Do you know what I mean? Because the cars are going so fast, so you only have like a minute to process all that data. And Bono's brain is amazing. It's great to see him think, and it's great to see him talk to Lewis. But then the trust that Lewis has on that man is beyond me, and I think that is what solidifies a lot. I don't know how they built their relationship, but the trust and the chemistry that they have is what solidifies everything that they have right now.
I think so many great points made there, Deni, and you're absolutely right. You know, it's one of those things. I think it's always like a mystery to us as like the spectators and fans to kind of learn more about. But as you said as well, like Lewis and Bono have been through it together, you know, through thick and thin, through, you know, really difficult kind of low points, through kind of moments of this ecstasy and just moments of brilliance and magic, you know. And we say it's magic, but again, like you also mentioned, it's like actually Bono being phenomenal at his job as well, being able to read Lewis's kind of demeanor and kind of his mood at times as well, when to give him critical information, when to kind of leave Lewis to it as well. And, you know, like as all things happen in life, sometimes it's not always 100%, but still they seem like a dynamic pairing where they're always pushing each other to do even better and better and to work on something even more unique. And I think for George, for example, that must be really inspiring and actually something I'd want to kind of get into more, you know, so I can replicate that when I become like the lead of the team someday as George. So interesting. And you know, final guess word, Deni. This is gonna be a funny one. He's been at the center of a lot of contract negotiations. However, his last name rhymes with town.
Zach Brown.
Hey, you got it. All right then.
Let's go.
Jeez. All right, I see. But yeah, Zach Brown, aka Zach Knight, aka Suge Knight, because my guy just honestly, like McLaren Death Row Records, like it just genuinely feels that Zach Brown's at the epicenter of any contractual kind of drama. Because in IndyCar, there's like a thing with him and one of the guys at another team called Chip Ganassi. Then obviously Daniel Ricciardo's in a bit of a pickle now as well. Then they're also maybe looking at maybe getting some new drivers in as well for the Formula E team. Yeah, Zach Brown's just in and amongst it. So, Dani, I'm really impressed that you got that one too. And before I like hand it to Black too, Black, what have you thought about Zach Knight and his antics, man?
Yeah, you make me laugh. I mean, every time there's a new nickname. But yeah, I was trying to think, like, what's the logic? Why is he behaving as he is? Like, maybe he knows something we don't. And, you know, Formula One's going to have 3 cars per team or something. Like the number of drivers he's compiling. Felix Rosenquist, Pato Award, Alex Palou, who, you know, is some guy, but he's also the reigning IndyCar world champion. And then the mess in F1. Or maybe he's just sort of, I don't know, super cutthroat and thinks he can get away with it. Let's see. I suspect that McLaren may be £21 million worse off by the time that they negotiate the release of Dani Ric. So who knows? Or maybe he'll still be driving the car and everyone in the garage will sort of be really annoyed, but he'll just want to keep going. I don't think it's conducive to running a great team, but if they get a fantastic car, maybe I'll eat my words next season. Let's see.
I'll be interesting to see how it plays out, Blag. And actually, I'll let you segue the next series of questions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've hinted at it before about what I think might happen when the floor rules come in. But, this is silly season. We're not far off the Spa Grand Prix. We're more than halfway, actually, through the number of races because Russia was cancelled. So, Deni, a bit of a general question for you here. What do you expect to happen in the second half of the season? Do you think, do you think Max is a slam dunk for the World Championship? Do you think the running order could be disturbed by this enforcement of the rules? What's going on in the battle of the midfield? What do you think is going to happen the rest of the season has in store for us, Deni?
I think the best guess for me right now is a slam dunk for Max, just because. Is Ferrari going to sit down and revise the strategies? Is Ferrari going to sit down and say, right, guys, we're messing up somewhere here. We need to make sure we give Charles the best car, the best strategy. We need to make sure these drivers have the complete package. Or is Ferrari coming back saying, there's nothing wrong we did. It's just a series of unfortunate events and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. If that's the case, if the answer is the B part of the question, I think Max is going to run away with this championship because Red Bull are very, very cutthroat. They don't make the same mistake twice. And the only thing I'm hoping happens is that these regulations really do shake up the grid. They are the top two teams essentially are going to bring completely new floors to Spa, which means there might be a chance where if Sergio Perez is running that legal floor like everyone's been suggesting, there is a massive chance for Mercedes and George Russell to go up there, and they're not too far off in the constructors, are they? Maybe drivers is something to dream of for next year, but the constructors is still in play to claim it from Ferrari, for instance. And so I think that is something I'm very, very hopeful in terms of where my team is standing. But for championship, I don't see a time and place where Mattia Binotto sits down and says, okay, guys, we've been doing really shit. And we need to bring this home. So let's sit down and see how things go for these next 9 races. Because Charles technically, mathematically, can still win this, but he needs help from his team. And I don't know if his team is going to be willing to help them right now. I don't see Mattia coming back in a very different mind than he was in the past few races. So it's really hard for me to believe that Charles is going to be lucky with strategies, because that's what he needs right now, luck, if his team is not going to work properly. But in terms of the midfield, I think the teething might not affect as many teams as we're thinking. I don't think he will. I think the order is going to remain the same, but the top 2 teams, if anything, might come down a bit, and we might see like a replace of like the Hungarian Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix, Canada, and things like that, where Mercedes was super competitive because someone somewhere lacked something.
Yeah, I think that's a fair scenario. I can only dream that this sets back Red Bull quite a distance, or at least brings them into play, and then we'll see Max under pressure. The thing that slightly I'm despairing about is that Max has an 80-point lead, and we saw last season that with an 80-point lead, basically you can drive another car into retirement, and you maintain your points advantage. So yeah, you're probably right on the slam dunk. Dens, Mr. Happy, Mr. Hammer. What do you have a different aspiration for the second half of the season? Any kind of hopes?
Oh man, it's gonna be an interesting one, isn't it? Because like both you and Deni have pointed out as well, like it is in Red Bull's hand, and it's basically for them to lose. But you never know what could happen. I don't think that Charles's talent's going to disappear anywhere. So, of course, with Ferrari having one of the stronger packages as well, if they're not affected by the new technical directives, I think they'll still be strong. But, of course, like Deni correctly mentioned as well, they need to not be doing plan B and plan C, when they've already got plan A in full effect. So there's always that. Then also, of course, you've got Lewis and George like closing up the gap as well. For Mercedes, still making kind of improvements, and it seems like the car is actually coming along. That W13, which gets the kind of diva-like status, I think is starting to slightly grow in our hearts, and it is starting to show signs of actually being a serious kind of like race car instead of just like a nice car to look at and not so much to drive, so there's always that. I've been super impressed with George, not only just on the track but off the track, because is a first year kind of with Mercedes. I've seen Nico Rosberg put that out there as well, not Rosberg, Rosberg, try and kind of rattle him and try and like create narratives in the media. Even like Naomi Schiff, bless her, like, she said some things and maybe in a way it's put George in a position where he might have said something which he shouldn't have said, but George has been very professional all times as well. So I've been really happy with George. And then if you're talking about the midfield, it's interesting because obviously Alpine and McLaren seem to kind of be a step ahead of everybody else. But then Aston Martin and Big Daddy Lawrence Stroll spent that money on that new rear wing, which seems quite revolutionary. So they might come with something. And again, just like Alfa Romeo have also kind of said that at the beginning part of the season, they had to basically go easy on parts, recycle a lot of components and stuff like that because they were trying to keep in the cost cap. Now the budget for them is a bit more open, so they're going to kind of push new parts, new developments, be a bit more aggressive with the strategy and stuff like that too. So there's still so many dynamics that could play out for the championship, I feel, even though like we've kind of pointed out, I think it's in Red Bull's hands. And it'll be interesting as well just to see what happens with the whole silly season thing too, because essentially you've got Daniel Ricciardo fighting for his career in F1. You've also got a situation now as well where, Alpine are going to start moving differently with Alonso because they don't want him to carry, confidential information over to Aston Martin too. There's so many intricate and very intrinsic kind of like details there that could play out quite dramatically in terms of the running order or kind of the results we see as well. And we got a couple of races as well. We've got some in Zandvoort, for example. So I do pray that all of our listeners, if you do go out to certain Formula One events as well, just be on your P's and Q's, be safe. It's sad that in this day and age I have to tell people to be kind of like looking over their shoulders because there's certain people that can't behave. And a certain section of Formula One people, they call themselves the Orange Army. I just call themselves the Orange Rats because they're just terrible. They're just vermin and just like make the sport a really terrible and toxic place. But yeah, there's so many things that happened this year, and I think it's a season we'll look back on. And I don't think it's like one for the history books, but I think there's definitely been a lot of talking points in that regard.
Yeah, you raised some incredibly important points. So, like, obviously the cost cap. Like, wasn't it Red Bull and maybe another team crying about like, oh, we're never going to meet the cost cap? And I think they got like an increase of a very small percentage. It will be really intriguing, how transparent the accounts have to be. Yeah, like I wonder if like there must be a team that's marginal here. And I wonder if in the spirit of competition, teams have been sort of over budgeting and now they'll have to really scrimp to go to the end of the season. Like I wonder if the FIA will stand by their rules. So that's really fascinating. And then as you say, like the way that drivers' relationships with teams change as they know they're not going to be there next season. It's really intriguing. Deni, any final words on the sort of second half of the season before we move on to our interactive question?
Sorry, what did you say?
It's all right. I think the answer was no. Any final words from you on the second half of the season before we move to the interactive question?
Not obviously. I think you guys have covered it all. It's always interesting to see how teams come back from summer break because obviously they took their time to go rest and they took their time to be with their families and stuff like that. But at the same time, they can't just fully turn. I think drivers are granted the benefit of completely shutting down but I think the team itself still needs to. I know there's some people that I interact with and I know work in F1 that were like, oh, there's no summer for us. We need to be, there's some systems that can't be shut down, So it's so interesting to know, like, we're here chilling, not worried about cars, but there's someone in the headquarters working in the factory day in, day out, thinking how are we going to approach, how are we going to make the car better. And regardless of how the running ends up being in terms of which team is in front, it's so, for me, intriguing to see how well a team in itself develops from summer break, so from one half to the other, and seeing like, okay, what are the steps that Mercedes actually took, and are we seeing different approach to how they drive in, a different approach to how they're setting up the cars. McLaren, they were struggling, are they scoring points now? And Alpine and all these teams that we have seen, like, and for instance Ferrari, which would be a very huge development if we saw them coming into the second half with amazing race strategies and amazing teamwork, and just allowing their drivers to do what they do on track. And I think for me, it's one thing that I will be looking at is to let's compare the two sides of the season, the first one and the second one. Did the teams actually progress and did the work, or they just stand by and doing the same thing they did in the first 2-3 races?
It will be fascinating to see. And of course, we're back racing in Spa, followed by the Dutch Grand Prix, and then the Italian. But as we go to the interactive question, let me set the scene for you, because I feel like we need to make this a fair fight. So you're going to have two options here, Deni, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So after the so I mentioned the Dutch Grand Prix and then the Italian. After that, we go to Singapore. And I think the humidity there is in the 80s all year round. So imagine it's a humid day, the temperature's in the 30s. Dani Ricciardo, against all odds, battles up from, I don't know, maybe let's say he started 13th. He seems to like starting in those sorts of positions. And he comes third, right? So think about all the braking, all of the kind of movement in the cockpit, etc. 61 laps. So he's on the podium, unexpected podium. And you know what he does on the podium? He takes his shoe off and he gets his Moët and Chandon and he pours it into the shoe and he hands it in your direction. That's option one, right? So you've got to drink a Shoey from Dani Ric. That's option one. Option two, to avoid that, is you have to take a lecture from Helmut Marko every day for the rest of your life. So which is it?
Oh my
the sweaty Singapore Shoey or the Helmut Marko lecture?
Oh no, I am the sweaty Shoey. No chance. The sweaty Shoey is going. It's not going to kill me. It's just 2 seconds of drinking that champagne. Probably most of it's going to spill. It's going to go on the floor. I'm safe. I'm good to go. I'm not listening to Helmut Marko. Forget that. I'm going with the Shoey. I'm good.
Denz was worrying where I was going with that, but let me say that, Deni, if too much of it spills on the floor, then you'll have to have a lecture from Helmut Marko for the rest of your life. So be sure to drink as much of that sweaty champagne as possible. Denz, is it a simple equation for you, or do you have to weigh up the pros and cons?
Man, that is just like, that's hell on earth basically in both instances. Because listen, I listen to Pearl Jam, I don't drink toe jam. That's something completely different. But then, you know, like Uncle Helmut, having to listen to One Eye Helmut. Wait, that's could you imagine having to get a lecture from Helmut Marko every single day of your life for the rest of your life?
No.
That's literally hell on earth. Like, imagine
as a black person, as black people as well, forget that. Forget that.
It's like some of the stuff you probably say to you wouldn't even be able to say in a public space, because like Helmut Marko is one of them wayward uncles, as one of them those weird kind of like backwards kind of like what do you call it, like mindsets from like 1940 or 1930, you know, when times are very different for black folks. So I might be resigned to having to do the Shoey, but I heard they're dangerous, you know. I heard one of them put Martin Brundle in the hospital one time, you know.
I feel like
you put Martin Brundle in the hospital.
That's as
Apparently,
as Max going to the hospital after Silverstone last year. I'm sure it was just precautionary.
Perhaps.
So I feel like we need to create a better scenario for next time, because I think to give my answer, I would definitely take the Shoey, because it's a one-off, and you'd also be on the podium in sweaty Singapore. No offense to Singapore, but the humidity graph is just 84% all year round. But also it'd be good to see Dani Ric on the podium. So yeah, it's a clear winner for that, and we'll have to come up with another one, helmet or something, for the next episode. Dens, I'm going to hand back to you as we approach the end of the interview, and it's been great, Deni, to talk to me for the first time, and for you to give us your time like this. It's been fantastic. Dens,
thank you. It was absolutely a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Deni. Honestly, you are the home girl. You know you're welcome here anytime.
Thanks.
And that's the thing, like,
yeah,
we were saying as well, like, when you did the first episode, like, me and Georgina were speaking. You're like, oh my God, like, Deni was so shy. It was like our third podcast. And I was like, what do you mean our first podcast? Like, Deni needs to just have her own podcast show. She'd be sensational, like.
Thank you. I've been told that, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Who knows? But so far, I'm enjoying, and I'm getting a little less camera shy as well. So I'm enjoying going into different podcasts here and there and testing the waters and learning how to properly speak comfortably in front of people and ask questions. So I know Georgina's already going to DM me like, thanks for coming. So when can I fill you in for the next podcast?
Yep.
Perfect impression.
The last time, and I was like, oh my gosh, you already want me back? Yeah, okay. So yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you. I think I really appreciate having these spaces where we can share a love for the sport and have these little just banter in general, and it's not always just like serious things, but we can always just dive into technical things and talk about the sport and how the drivers are driving and all these things. So I really appreciate when I'm like contacted and asked to be part of these things, because I feel included. It feels like, oh, they really appreciate my input. So thanks a lot.
Oh, of course we do, Deni, man. You're the star. Come on. Forget FIA girly, star girly and that. Like, you're amazing, you know, and I always tell people, you know, even just, you know, if you're a veteran kind of seasoned dinosaur like F1 Black, or if you're somebody new coming into catching stray bullets, my friend. Catching stray. You were collateral damage to that joke, but
when you said Nick de Vries and then you put the emphasis on 28 like that, I was like, come on, man, come on.
Man, well, I'm 26 in it, so I'm just living my best life. I'm just trying to live my best life. But yeah, man, like, you know, going back to Deni, yeah, just like, you know, for people that are trying to get into Formula One, or, you know, want to know more about Lewis, or, you know, even the seasoned veterans as well, like Black, and I'm not gonna bring his agent to this or before he kills me. But yeah, there's so many people you appeal to, Deni, and like, honestly, it's such a pleasure to have you as part of our community as well. So on that note as well, Deni, you know, are there any new experiences you're looking forward to? Any projects that you can disclose to us at all? Anything that you're looking forward to?
I mean, I don't know. I'm seeing where the thing is. I feel like Fiagirly is starting to become something more serious, and I do want to take it a bit more seriously. So I am drafting a few projects I'm trying to see if I can bring to life. It's just crazy because I created Fiagirly as an escape because my friends in real life just wouldn't bear listening to me talking about F1. And today I bump into people. I went home for summer, so I just bump into people on the street, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, someone sent one of your tweets in our group chat that we have," and I'm like, "Whoa, I am recognized. I'm like a national treasure now, and everyone's talking to me about F1. Like, you know so much, da 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 da." And the amount of people that are starting to follow me and the amount of followers that I gain, I just feel like I could do something with it, with the page, and help more people and try to reach more people in terms of actually diving into F1 and explaining, because right now I'm more of like a news source, I think, where I just update people, and whenever I get the chance I do speak to people and try to tell them what I know, because I do know quite a bit, especially on the technical side, and so I do want to try to bring that knowledgeable side of Fiagirly and turn that into something. So I'm drafting some things, and let's see how it goes. Hopefully it all goes well and we can we can start bringing F1 and creating safe space, especially for like Black women that want to be involved and want to be part of this, and women in general that want to know more about tech, because there's still that stereotype of like, oh, you just watch for the drivers. But no, some of us really, really appreciate the tires and the engines and all of these things. So it all goes well. I'm just trying to make Fiagirly something a bit more sustainable, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely, Deni. And honestly, it's so commendable. We're so proud of you, and the like the amazing work that you continue to do, the great content that you put out as well, the insights that you give us as well. Honestly, like you mentioned as well, like you're going to inspire and touch the lives of many young women out there that aspire to be like you, to aspire to get into, the engineering side of it, the mechanical aspects of it, the technical aspects of it as well. There is and should always be opportunities for everyone, especially people of our kind too. So I see you as like a good and great ambassador for that as well, and we're just so immensely proud of you. So please keep it up, because we just love the amazing stuff that you do as well. We're going to keep our eyes peeled. And Deni, for any of the new listeners as well out there too, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at Fiagirly, that is FIA Girly, on Twitter. Those are the place that you can find me at.
Perfect. And man them as well. Calm down with the creepy tweets and DMs as well. Yeah, just relax yourself. Like just be calm, be cool, be cool.
Face review just ended me, yeah, because the deal was like, oh, Deni, do you want to marry me? Deni, you're so small, but you're also so pretty. And I'm like, thanks, guys, but no thanks.
Had to be said. It had to be said. Well, Deni, thank you so much. We need to get you later on in the year as well, as the season progresses and we have even more hot topics to talk about. But yeah, it's been amazing to have you on as always. Fiagirly, Deni, make sure you go and follow her, subscribe, make sure that you share this episode as well, guys, when it comes out. So many funny moments and really insightful and deep kind of moments as well regarding Lewis and the Vanity Fair comments that we explored earlier too. And yeah, it's been your dynamic duo of AMG Dens and F1 Blag. And from us, Blag, I'll let you get the final word.
Well, it's been a fantastic episode. Looking forward to hearing from everyone about what you think about it. Fiagirly, maybe you're getting those DMs because they think you work for the FIA and they just love your fantastic work. And on that bombshell, give us a high rating wherever you are. Don't forget to follow us, subscribe at Stripping the Dipping. And until next time, this has been F1 Blag with Fiagirly and AMG Dens. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah, boy.